pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call to the community. This is the time for citizens who would like to address the RPG Commission on any non-agenda item. Action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to asking staff to review the matter, asking that the matter be put on a future agenda, or responding to criticism. Nobody's here for a call to the community, so we can move on, right?
Yes, we had none.
Staff reports. Community and Recreation Services Monthly Report. Turning it over to Tricia Kramer, Director of Community and Recreation Services.
Thank you, Chairman Patty. Commissioners, nice to see you after a little bit of a break, so glad to be back here with you guys. Just a couple of quick items. As you know, the Rec Center pool opened for the season Memorial Weekend. We're in full swing, open to the public 7 days a week, and will be open until Labor Day. Our summer aquatics programming is running strong. I think actually as of today, we're at more like 1,300 registrations for swim lessons. So going great. This is the last week of Legardo's swim team. They've got their finals meet on tomorrow, and they've been doing really well. I think there's about 50 or so of them that qualified for the finals, and so they're having a great time. It's fun to see. Preschool, they're in their summer camp. July session has been pretty strong, 22 in the morning and I think 14 or 15 in the afternoons. This week they had STEM challenge and fun things like that. Each week's a different theme for them. Enrollments for the actual school year are going well. We're at, I believe, 42 enrollments at the moment, and staff is prepping for that. Our preschool aide did just recently turn in her resignation, so her last day is going to be next Friday, and we've got an opening for a preschool aide. So if anybody knows someone that's looking for just some part-time work during the day, maybe they have children that are in school and they'd like to help out in preschool, pass that on. In terms of community services, we had a very nice Memorial Day ceremony. I know some of you were able to attend. Thank you for that. And appropriations, council at the June 21st meeting granted $20,000 total in appropriations to 11 nonprofits. And we are working on finalizing those contracts to get out and get those checks to the organizations so they can put them to good use. In terms of special events, can't remember if we shared this with you before, but the city has purchased outdoor movie equipment. We found a way to get that going, find the funds for that, and put on our first movie night back in May for Kids to Parks Day, and we showed the Lorax. Thought that was appropriate for Kids to Parks Day at Jackie Robinson. Had about 100 people that turned out. It was a good time, and now that we have that equipment, we're going to start hosting movie nights throughout the special event season. So our staff is working on that to have routine movie nights for families free to the community. So we'll keep you updated on that. We're just in the planning stages right now for most of events, and but Pat's got a lot of fun stuff happening on sports, so I'm going to let him share that.
So sports, all our summer has been our skill clinics. We've done t-ball and basketball in June, and then we're doing our July session starting next week. We did have Challenger soccer come out. They've been running our week-long soccer camps for the last few years, and they had about 51 participants this last June, which has been the most since they've started. So it's good to see those numbers get back up to where they're going for. Our coach pitch registration started in June, and it's closing on the July 24th, and we currently have 31 kids in there, so it's about the same as what we had last year going in to a couple of weeks. So we're hoping to get more registrations in that age group to get some more teams, but we will have a season that starts at the end of August for that. Our fall registration started this Monday for our basketball, t-ball, and flag football, and we had 94 kids register on day one, which is 14 more than we had last year, and it's currently up to like 135 kids. So our t-ball program and flag football, the two big increases, in basketball's doing pretty well too. So we still have, obviously being the first week, we're hoping and expecting those numbers to go up until end of August is when that closes. So excited to see other numbers and get ready back for our fall sports season to start back up. So.
And his team are doing a great job on sports and getting the word out to the community and putting a good program on. That's the news from Rec.
Commissioner Gertz.
Commissioner Dodd, movie equipment, is that something you might consider using for a swim-in movie situation?
Yeah, actually, we are using that. Thanks for that. In August, I think it's the 26th, yeah. We are showing Minions, Rise of the Gru at the Rec Center. And Sammy and her aquatic staff are in charge of that.
What time will that start? I mean, it's almost 7:30, it's still bright outside.
Yeah, probably about 7:45 is when it typically starts.
As early as possible.
Yeah, as early as possible, but I think they're opening the doors at 6:30 and then serving, popcorn, snow cones, all that stuff. So the staff will be entertaining the families and the kids as they wait for the sun to set and the movie to go on. But, yeah, it should be fun.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, guys. Public Works Monthly Report. Presenter Kyle Ames, Director of Public Works.
Thank you, Chairman Taddy, members of the commission. I'm not sure if the commissioners noticed, Public Works completed a new landscape project along Litchfield Road on the east side. Staff planted roughly 300 plants, all new irrigation all through there, so that was completed about 3 weeks ago now. We were kind of a rush trying to get those in before the heat hit, so it's inevitable we'll probably lose a few plants here and there, but we'll replace as we go.
Regular Litchfield Road, not old Litchfield Road?
Yeah, just regular Litchfield Road. Yep, from the
okay.
Airline Canal to Bird Lane.
Good.
Yeah. The Staggs Park parking lot is complete. West Coast Arborist will be removing the mesquite tree, the last mesquite tree in the teardrop island. It was condemned a safety hazard. It leans, roots have been restructured from that paving. So we made a decision to just go ahead and remove it and replant. So we'll be taking care of that here shortly. As soon as West Coast Arborist finishes up the palm tree trimming, they'll be jumping on that as quick as possible. We also installed a new trash receptacle and doggy waste station at Scout Park. It was brought up by one of the commissioners, Vix, that she stated that there's nothing on the north side, so she had a valid point, so we installed a couple over there as well. We have been receiving quotes for the pony wall repair along Park Avenue due to a recent accident. I've just received all three quotes. We did award the quote to the lowest bid. They should be starting this project July 24th, which is, I think, is that Monday. So they'll get that going. It should take about a week for them to finish that out. They're going to be repairing about 134 feet of that pony wall with footers. Another one that was brought up to us by the commissioners about the drinking fountains in the parks. It was noticed that the drinking fountains in some of the parks do not have backflow preventers to them, and that is a big no-no. So we are working on putting backflow preventers separate from the restroom to these drinking fountains. Camelback Park's been complete. We are working on Staggs Park next. But I think we're going to end up wrapping that into the remodel. It's a bigger project than we anticipated. It's more of coring, punching under sidewalks. So when we work on that project, we'll probably add that in, tie that in. And like I stated before, West Coast Arborists, they started the palm trimming this week. This time around, it's going to take a little bit longer than usual. I've requested them to do some skinning. They'll be removing the excess skin fronds. So I don't know if you guys noticed, but they've been making a pretty big mess, but they're doing the best they can to get them cleaned up as fast as possible. So I'm thinking about 3 to 4 weeks they should be finished. But other than that, that's all I got. I'll answer any questions.
Sir?
The timing that you trim the palm trees, is there, what's the thought process? Obviously, it gets done in the summer usually, but
Yeah, every July. So every July we have the California fan palms trim. We do it once a year, and then we kind of monitor them through the years. If they start producing their seeds, pods, I'll have West Coast come back out and take care of those, because that's what usually ignites the sprouts on the ground. So
right.
And creates the mess. If we do preventative maintenance every 2 to 3 years of the skinning, that kind of alleviates the seed producing. So that's why this year we decided to go ahead and do it.
Just from my understanding, if you trimmed them earlier, would it prevent them from sprouting, or would they just sprout at some point?
No, because if you trim them too early, they sprout.
Oh.
So we wait for them to sprout the seed, and then we do the cutbacks, and then we don't have to worry about it for the rest of the year.
Makes sense.
Can you just talk through real quick the backflow prevention? What exactly is that function?
So the backflow preventers are a safety mechanism for potable water. So if the water becomes contaminated, I don't know if you guys remember, I think it was last year, 2 years ago, we had the Luke Air Force contamination, and they were giving out the water bottles. That's what helps prevent anything that's potable become contaminated and get people sick. It's a requirement. I don't know.
You're saying water going back down the spout
Correct.
into the public water system?
Correct.
So somebody putting something bad.
Yeah, I mean, don't be chemical, I mean, it could be, you know.
So it's an open valve, I guess, where I would drink from, and what you're saying is the backflow would prevent that open valve.
Correct. It wouldn't let it come back into the system. It prevents it, it stops.
So there's like a one-way valve.
Correct.
Okay.
It's a bell housing, so it just up and down, up and down. So as soon as that water shut off, it doesn't let anything else pass through.
Okay.
And it's required, and I'm not sure why it's never been done in the past, but it's going to be done now, so. Don't want anybody to get sick.
Like a Batman movie theme there. Contaminated water.
Are there any other questions? Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Presentations. Tierra Verde Lake Planter. Presenter Kyle Ames, Public Works Director.
Thanks, Chairman Taddy, members of the commission. I wanted to bring this to the commission and kind of get some ideas from you. This is a kind of a concept design that I've reached out to a company called Boulder Designs to kind of give us a preliminary showing of boulders. We can place any verbiage on these boulders. We can make it say Tierra Verde Lake. We could say, you know, welcome to the city of Litchfield Park. My thought process behind this was more of a long-term solution versus, you know, year after year or, you know, 6 months. Before, we've had plants in there that kind of spelt out LP with lantanas. Over time, those get overtaken by weed, Bermuda grass, and that stuff's really difficult to kill and remove out of there. So our thought process behind it is, can we put some kind of solid structure that would look good? Maybe it be, you know, astroturf lined around it, potentially even, you know, metal art plants. So I would like to get a little bit of your guys' feedback or any other ideas that you guys can think of that potentially can go in this area. Now, keep in mind, this area is slanted, it's sloped. So it makes it a little bit on the difficult side to get water to kind of stay up on top. It wants the gravity takes over, the water wants to feed down. There is other options. I know we had a resident reach out to us about the Owala cups. I'm not opposed to those, or we're not opposed to those, but I'm kind of thinking more of a long-term solution versus just keep replacing these with plants.
It's an old cup.
It's like an underground clay cup that fills up with water and kind of seeps and saturates. It's really common in gardens.
There would be watering plants there? Is that
Correct.
what it's called?
Yeah, they've been using it for centuries, that kind of style. I've seen them a few times in the past. I don't have a ton of experience with it. She did present some stuff to us. I've reviewed it. It's an option that we can also look into. But like I said, my thought process behind it was more of a long-term solution versus year to year.
Was it Kathy who was at the previous meeting?
It may have, yeah, it may have been.
Commissioner Faith?
It seems like that structure has some sort of practical use, like on the other side of it, there's some kind of grate there.
What is it? So, yeah, so that back grate is actually an overspill. So most people don't know that the Tierra Verde Lake is a reservoir for stormwater. So a lot of this northern side of the city flows into the lake, and that lake gets too full, it'll pour into the back grates, and then it flows out to Indian School and out to Goodyear, into their washes.
Okay.
So that's just an overfill spill out.
I understand the pain in the neck that, a manicured hedge poses. It's kind of reminiscent of Disneyland, the hedge they have there in front, right? What about like some sort of sculpture that preserved the, kind of the LP thing? That's the only place in the city where we see LP, and it's kind of cool.
All right.
Yeah, I was looking at these stone things, and like, I can imagine like a stone thing that maybe with the LP.
Spelled out LP,
I don't
yeah.
know. Just thinking out loud, but.
After speaking with Boulder Designs, they have molds that can design any shape, size rock. They're solid concrete. They're stained to make them look like flagstone. Like I said, we can paint them any color. They can be just the flagstone color. They come with a 10-year warranty, or we can purchase a lifetime warranty. So that covers decay, discoloration. They'll come out, repair them, fix them, all that good stuff. They are placed with the footer. So there's a footer placed with a 4-inch post, solid post, they slide onto. So they're very solid. Very solid. They don't tip.
Vice Chair Phillips?
I like the idea of a permanent something, and I think, something that stands more upright also in that position is gonna be so much more visible, and I think that's a key spot in our city to have something visible, whether it's the LP or this one. One of my questions is, at one point, we were looking at, key signage for, like, entry and exits into Litchfield, and that had to do with the town square, and I just wonder where the city is in that, because perhaps this should be a part of that bigger plan, and I have no idea where it is. Remember when we were discussing those things and had...
So the city gateway signs?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this was presented to the city manager, and I think council's already got their minds set and the working group set on those gabion wall signs.
Okay.
So I don't think...
So we don't have to worry about tying into that or anything?
Right.
Okay.
This is more of just, an RPG project.
Okay.
Everything's pretty much set with the working group and council of their design.
Yeah.
So this wasn't really a part of that.
No, I like the permanent. I think in this day and age, it's also smart to do something that isn't a water user. We've got a lot of water usage around with the grass that is lovely, and I mean, that's a huge draw. I don't want to get rid of that, but I do like the non-water using, permanent, probably more visible aspect to this one. And if I had to vote on any of these three, I'd pick the pointed top one, but that's just me.
And keep in mind, we're not set to these
Right.
designs. We can,
Right.
I can definitely bring it back in to the next meeting and bring some more designs, or you guys can throw something out, can you make it look like the state of Arizona, the shape of the state of Arizona, or something like that. They can do any custom mold.
Commissioner Gertz?
Just a question, I also like the first design, and I'm just saying that because it looks a little bit more natural and very net sort of thing. Would that warranty cover repairs for vandalism, or is that a concern on, like, if you'd have to pressure wash it, you'd wash away some of the coloration on top of the concrete?
So after speaking with them, the warranty will not cover any physical damage. Say, a car ran into it, say if somehow, some way, somebody was able to push it over, stuff like that, but like discoloration, decay, say if the rock starts crumbling, that will be covered. I can follow up with them on the vandalism and see.
Yeah, I should have clarified, I'm more concerned about spray paint, that sort of thing.
Right.
Like, once it's sprayed once and we try to clean it off, does it forever look like it's been sprayed? Or can we clean it off in a way or the coloration's so deep that you're not gonna have a big discoloration mark from having pressure washed it off. We might-
Yeah, I'm not 100% positive. I can definitely follow up with that.
Commissioner Schwartz?
So it strikes me that the motion we need is do we want to explore this further? And if so, it would be to get some examples and some quotes, is that?
Yeah, and I have a question prior to the motion. Is there, or does this company, have they already supplied these to any cities that we could drive to and check out?
So Boulder Designs is a nationwide company. They're a franchise, so they do have a beautiful website that you guys can check out as well. As for them local, I'm not sure. I can follow up. I know they've done a lot for a couple cities in Texas. There's some of their gateway signs. I know they've done a few for some fire departments here locally, but I'm not exactly sure which ones. I can definitely find out for you guys.
Because then we could check it out, and that might be the best way to answer Commissioner Gertz's question, is how do they look over time, and if it was vandalized, what does it look like after it was cleaned from the vandalism?
And they were willing to bring in samples, smaller, rock with, designs and stuff like that, if you guys ever wanted to take a look at those as well.
Maybe we can experiment on the samples, Commissioner Gertz.
I'll bring my pressure washer. That's what I'm saying.
I thought you were gonna bring a scrape.
I'll put, I'll do both.
And any
Commissioner Faith?
examples, I would love to see something that maybe does have the LP, and I don't know if that's even feasible, because the P creates kind of a leverage point where it could fall over or be vandalized pretty easy, But that'd be kind of, among the examples, I'd love to see something like that, something creative.
And is it just boulderdesigns.com if you wanna go look?
Yeah, boulderdesigns.com.
Commissioner Faith, you had your hand up
Yeah,
too.
I was wondering if it should maybe be a sign for the pond instead of Litchfield Park, because like you were saying, there's gonna be a entryway sign relatively close to that. And I don't know that the pond has any signage.
It doesn't, and that was the other thing I was gonna bring up is, with the verbiage, we can make it say Tierberg Lake. I mean,
You could do both.
we
Yeah.
could.
And so I was thinking, if we did go with one of these type of designs, I think something that says Litchfield Park and then says Tierra Verde Lake, Park, underneath it, the name of the park.
Established,
Should be,
whenever.
but I also like the LP idea. 'Cause then that's almost like art, if it's a big LP.
I can get some more, proofs back with them saying, Tierra Verde Lake, City of Litchfield Park. I can definitely request that.
Would it be big enough to fill the area there?
The sign
And
itself?
then I guess, yeah, like the size of these. I mean,
Their
this one
website,
looks
it
like
could be
it's
as big as
dwarfing
you
the,
want.
Yeah, I think, there's a few of them that I think there were 85,000 pounds. I mean, they were 30 feet by 20 feet tall. I mean, they can make them as large as we need.
And about how big is that space?
I think it's 18 feet by 12 feet.
You had mentioned too, potentially an archway with flowers on it, which I agree with Vice Chair Phillips in the sense that ultimately we should be moving towards less water usage, especially with the rise in rates. However, I'm really intrigued by what you're picturing in terms of like an archway with flowers through the archway.
Yeah. I mean, we can definitely bring other options. I mean,
Over this.
Over the signage?
Yeah, like almost like you're picturing it, I don't know.
There was
I'm
another
interested.
thought process. Obviously, you guys have probably been over to the Wigwam Valley area. If you guys noticed, they have the AstroTurf and then the Wigwam spelt out with decorative rock.
Mm-hmm.
There was an idea thrown around to have the city logo done that way in that planter area as well. I can reach out to the Wigwam, see who did that project, and see if they'd be willing to come and take a look at our area as well. I think it's fairly easy enough that I'm fairly confident my staff can do something like that as well.
Are those little rocks glued in place, or do they disappear?
The ones at the Wigwam?
Mhm.
No, they're just white washed rocks with stain on them. It may end up in the bottom of the
Could be a
lake at
problem.
one point.
Yeah.
You probably glue them in or something to make them a little bit more permanent.
Yeah, I'm sure we can figure out some kind of option for it.
And last, was there an estimate on these?
There was, I didn't include it, but they do range, depending on size, that's why I didn't want to include it in the presentation, but just depending on size, it's 4,000 to 10,000, depending on size.
Oh, it is here, I'm sorry.
How, do you have a budget that you're keeping in mind for maxing out at, so that we're not unrealistic and?
Yeah, I do have a landscape budget of around 15,000, so I would like to keep it as minimal as possible so I can still continue with some smaller landscape projects throughout the year. I do want to get something that's going to fit that area. I definitely don't want to shortchange it, but if we can keep it to a certain cost, it'd be preferred.
Are there any other questions? So I'm not sure that we need a motion. I think we could just ask Kyle to finalize the research and come back to us based on the questions that we've asked.
Yeah, I think you're fine doing that.
So, thank you, Kyle.
You're welcome.
If we see something that we're really in love with on boulderdesigns.com, is it okay to forward it to you, or does that violate something?
Don't copy all of this.
No, I know that.
Just forward
just
directly to
directly-
Kyle.
To Kyle, okay. Okay.
It works then.
Yeah. Could be put in the same.
Update on capital improvement plan projects, CIP for short. Presenter Tricia Kramer, Director of Community and Recreation Services, and Kyle Ames, Director of Public Works.
Thank you, Chairman Taddy, Commissioners. So Kyle and I chatted a little bit, and we thought it might be a good idea to give you an update now that council has, as of June, approved the city's fiscal year 24 budget. And what they did along with that was also approve a 5-year capital improvement plan. And we thought we'd give you a little bit of update of what the priorities are for the city and for the council in terms of some of the Parks and Recreation related projects, so that you know what we're up to and what we might be coming to you to share additional information or to ask your input as we go along over the next few years. And we've got a few here to highlight, and we're not going to go into a ton of detail, honestly just calling it to your attention. And then this way, if you guys do want more information from us, we can go back to the proper departments, get that information, and come back to you guys, if that's okay with you. I'm going to start just briefly with the Camelback Park view fence design and the Camelback Park parking lot design. Those are ones that I know that Woody came to you guys, Woody Scouten, and did a presentation on that, I think it was last year, to give you guys an update as to where we were at with that. As you know, that still has not been done. Council had put a little bit of a moratorium, I would say, on capital improvement projects. They directed staff to go back not long ago and prioritize for them, have a work study session and prioritize the projects that were out there and that we were needing to be done, so that council could determine what's the right direction and what those priorities will be from year to year. Camelback Park, the view fence and the parking lot are on the fiscal year 24 budget. The view fence has a $1.2 million budget, and the parking lot has a $279,000 and change budget. That parking lot design is set for the most part. Per our city engineer, there will be probably minor updates to it. If you can recall, there were those square pathways with some of the grass in between it, so that plan is still currently in effect. That one way in, one way out, that had been presented to the residents that lived in that area, so that still will go forward. The fence is still to be determined whether that will be a full fence or a view fence. Staff is leaning towards, I think, a combination of both. And so as they go along and actually have a design for that to present, we'll update you guys on that. But those are set to be in this current fiscal year 24, to start happening.
Quick question, can you remind us when does the fiscal year run?
We just started fiscal year for
July
us is July 1st to June 30th. So we are now in fiscal year 24. Staggs Park and Tierra Verde Lake, that's also this fiscal year. There's a budget of $165,000, and Kyle can probably fill you in a little bit more on what's happening with those.
Sure. So the Staggs Park, restroom remodel, it's been less desired. It's in dire need of some repairs. So that's part of this year's budget. It was on last year's budget and it kept getting pushed back. So we put it back on this year, for 2024. We'll remodel the restrooms, stucco work, paint, roof repairs, obviously the backflow preventer for the water fountain. And that also will probably include the 2 Ramadas, that are currently there. We'll probably replace some benches and do a little paint work and potentially any metal fabrication that needs to be done. As for the lake dock repairs, that is the resurfacing and restaining of the dock itself, repairing of the bollards that are, essentially holding up the dock. They've just been vandalized so many times through the years, and some of them are half there and half not. We're going to try to restore it back to the way it used to be. I don't know if you guys recall, there used to be rope around some of the pillars, so we're going to try to bring that all back. Stucco work, electrical upgrades, new light fixtures, and paint. So.
What about kayak lockers?
The kayak lockers?
I had trouble for kayaking on there years ago, so that's why I'm curious.
Yeah, I think you could.
Yeah, so it was brought to us by council to kind of look into adding in kayak locker storage. So what would happen would, if they wanted to rent a kayak, they would have to go to the rec center, grab a key, pay a deposit, go out there, grab the kayak out of the storage, and be able to kayak onto the lake. Apparently it was here before in the past, and I don't recall. I've never heard of anything of it.
No.
Yeah.
Circa 2000.
It's got to be early.
2013, I got a visit from the sheriff's department about my kids kayaking.
Yeah, it wasn't ever legal.
So you can, I'll tell you, you can kayak on the lake. I'm right.
The people that live there have paddleboards.
You have to be a resident, and you have to submit proof of insurance to the rec center, to the city, to keep on file. Generally, it will fall under your homeowner's insurance. You just need to check with your homeowners. But we currently have one resident that has theirs on file.
Who knew?
Good to know.
Yes.
Commissioner Gertz.
Thank you. Questions on the Camelback View fence. One, the land that we needed to get from Goodyear, does that?
Yeah, that's been fully,
It's
that's been
done.
fully in.
Done?
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So we're moving out.
We're extending about an acre, I think it is.
Almost a full
with
acre.
that. It'll be almost an acre.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the second question on that is, the design, I think we're talking about is the blocks that have patches of grass throughout, right?
On the parking?
On the
Yeah, on the parking
Yeah.
deck. And I guess this is a concern maybe on your behalf for that is, grass will, unless you water it, not really grow there. And are we gonna water a parking lot?
Yeah, I've expressed my concerns about that as well. You're exactly right. I mean, that requires watering, that considers overspray of sprinklers. That's considering late night run times of sprinklers. People driving through this parking lot, getting sprayed by sprinklers. There's a lot of factors that go into this because you're exactly right. It's going to be very difficult to water grass cues in a parking lot. I think it's still up in the air if that design is going to stick or not because of these concerns that have been expressed. Merely a maintenance standpoint as well.
Yeah.
I mean, we're running a lawnmower through a parking lot. It's probably not the best idea. So I've definitely expressed those concerns to the designers and the engineer.
That's what's on the table. That's the starting point that they'll be working off of, though.
Is our input on that significant? Because I think that was one of the things that we mentioned, as concern we had for the park, which seems to be a bit of our remit.
To go back and check. I
So-
think that I thought that at that point, that the commission had approved that to move forward.
Commissioner Schwartz.
What's the train depot?
That one's not on the agenda. Yeah,
On this list.
we're doing parks and rec.
Oh, that's not
Yeah,
part of
but it's not
Parks and Rec.
listed on
Okay,
there,
I'll ask you
so.
afterwards.
So I had a question that's very similar to what Commissioner Gertz brought up, was that I know that there are concerns from the neighbors there, and Commissioner Fix talks to them a lot more, but there's been one or two conversations that I have had with people who are right on that line, and that is a concern of theirs, where, what is the view? What is the view gonna be from, say, their front, their front door?
Yeah, and I'm sure the city engineer, once it gets to that point where they're starting to work on it, will work to get that input the same way we work to get input and buy-in from the residents to have the parking. So I don't think the city is gonna make that decision without taking the pulse of the residents.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Do we know a time frame? I know it's fiscal year '24, but do we?
I know it's starting to move, now that we've annexed that Goodyear space, now it's officially, the city of Litchfield Parks. So I think we're progressing now, and I think it's high up in the priority list to start moving with this. Timeframe, not sure.
We'll check
Yeah, we'll have
and
to
get
find
back
out.
to you.
A lot of people are very excited, and it's like a gain of over an acre, I believe.
Mhm.
Right on.
All right, other things that are on the CIP are, Kyle already mentioned the city gateway signage, that's fiscal year '25. Next year, the lake lighting he touched on as well, fiscal year '25. In terms of Litchfield Square, GMP 6 is in fiscal year '25. That'll be the main park amenities, and I guess just as a brief rundown, GMPs 1 and 2 were related to the infrastructure and the underground utilities that you saw forever and forever and forever happening. GMP 3 focused on the Litchfield Road improvements, the roundabout, and the Village Parkway extension through to Desert Avenue. GMP 4s for the water line and sewer extensions, that's, I think, in process in Honeysuckle, and relocating a portion of the airline canal and the RBG lighting. GMP 5 is the reconstruction of Honeysuckle, that started and is expected to be completed, I think, in early 2024, January, February timeframe. So 6 will be when those main park amenities start happening in fiscal year '25, and 7 will be finishing those out, with the exception of those larger items, the amphitheater and clock tower. And those are just items that, again, will be based on other capital improvement project priorities at the time. So those aren't set. So as we get closer to those things, we will keep you guys updated, but that's currently where we're at with those Litchfield Square items. And last but not least, Scout Lodge and the Scout Park improvements. I know you guys saw design proposals that were submitted a while back. Again, that was a time frame when the design was taken to council. Council was not thrilled with the cost of what was being proposed, and they asked staff to go back to the table and decide how we could make this more cost-effective, and again, what the capital improvement project priorities are for the city. So that one is currently looking to be done in fiscal year '26.
Isn't there a parking structure planned for where the Scout Lodge is?
Yes, I believe that that's
So-
part of the reason for moving and building a new Scout Lodge.
Right, but, so is the parking structure gonna wait until 2026?
Yes.
Oh, it is, okay, I didn't put them all the way on there, okay. Okay.
There'll be other parking as well.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
just didn't know if like all the parking stuff happened at one time and that Scout Lodge is gonna be,
I'm sure the parking, I
Mm.
think, will be phased based on how the development and the
Okay.
build-out is. So they
Okay.
won't just build the garages right away. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other input on that stuff, Hal?
No, I think you covered it.
Question?
Yes.
How does
Christopher.
you mentioned a $15,000 budget for landscape capital improvements this year. Is that factored into one of these line items, or is that kind of?
No, that's in
Like general.
that's my general budget, yearly budget. So I always put in, you know, a certain amount of monies for landscape improvements throughout the year that are not considered in the CIPs.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
So most of the CIPs are the big
Big
ticket
ticket
items. And then the departments have their own budgets within too that they can work with.
We try to squeeze little things in as we go through the year.
Are there any other questions? Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And again, as you guys think of anything that relates to these projects, I mean, feel free to email Kyle or I, and we'll get you the answers at the next meeting or get back to you directly on some of this stuff. And obviously, if you can, attend the council meetings or hop on to view those council meetings on YouTube afterwards, they're a great way to stay up to date on those too. Keith, the city engineer, provides CIP updates at each of the monthly meetings.
Approval of minutes. Presenter, Tricia Kramer, Director of Community and Recreation Services. Information action.
Thank you, Chairman Taddy. The minutes are in your agenda packet. If you need a moment to look them over, I'll entertain a motion.
Commissioner Gertz. Make a motion to approve the minutes as written in last month's meeting.
I'll second that. Oh, wait, do I have to wait for discussion?
Is there any discussion, any questions on that? All right.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay. The minutes are approved.
Thank you.
Don't let me forget to sign.
You got it.
Yard of the Quarter selection. Presenter, Tricia Kramer, Director of Community and Recreation Services. Information action.
Thank you, Chairman Taddy. Thank you, commissioners, for getting out there and getting these votes put together, taking a look. As you know, there were 7 homes in the Greens to evaluate, and the tally came to be that the address of 4904 North Green Tree Drive West had the most, the highest number of votes total.
It's a real barn burner this time, huh?
Yeah. It was.
Do we have a motion to approve Yard of the Quarter? 4904. Commissioner Schwartz?
I move to approve the yard of the quarter with 4904 North Green Tree Drive West as the yard of the quarter.
I'll second.
Are there any questions? All in favor of approving 4904 North Green Tree West, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Congratulations to 4904 North Green Tree Drive. In this tight race for Yard of the Quarter, they are the champions.
Thank you, Chairman Taddy. I'll work to notify them, and Kyle will work to get the sign out there, and I'll touch base with Chuck as well to see if we can get some video footage of the home too. So,
I'm sure I'll see him soon, too.
yeah.
He's always at tennis.
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yard of the Quarter Focus Feature. Presenter, Andy Phillips, RPG Vice Chairperson. Discussion and possible action to select a Yard of the Quarter Focus Feature for the third quarter of 2023.
So I have a question first. So will that be October, Tricia?
This coming, so July, August, September, so we would name them basically in October.
In October?
Yeah.
Okay, but September
through
would be.
September.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect, thank you. So going along with kind of our maybe shift away from just, picking the best house, we had discussed coming up with features. So for this next quarter, I am suggesting that we focus on entryways. So that and I don't know if we have an area picked. Do we have a focus area again? What's the focus area again? But one of the nice things that I think about entryways is a lot of the condos, you can look at what they do because their entryway can be personalized, whereas their space that's out in front really can't be personalized. So I think this category, if we decide to do this, is a way to incorporate some of those residences that we really haven't been able to do before. And it's easy to see from the street. I guess I have one more question. Did we get any nominations? Has there been social media posts about this anywhere? I don't do Facebook,
We
but-
do have the nomination form up and running. Chuck and I did put together some social media, and once we grab this other one into it too, we can, I think, get more activity again going on it.
Okay.
I think a question I have for you all is, are you planning to focus on whatever the feature is of the quarter, and in addition, keep it to whatever the quadrants are that you were working off of before?
That's one
Or
question.
is your plan to open it up to all?
Yeah, I don't know.
How many of this quarter's, ones we had there, how many of them were self-nominated?
We have not had any self-nominations
Those are all
yet.
chosen by
Yeah.
us.
So we'll really start to make that push now.
Do we know what quadrant this next quarter should, like, just rotation-wise be?
I can double check for you. We
We just did quadrant 4,
Quadrant-
so I think it moves.
I think we go to 3 now.
Yeah.
You guys go backwards, 4, 3, 2, 1.
3 being the north side, I believe? Am I,
I have to double check.
okay.
I'm not 100% off the top of my head.
Do you have that map by any chance? And you know?
I didn't.
I bet you do.
Give me a minute.
Commissioner Bates?
I'm not sure you said this directly, but you might have indicated towards it that if we're asking people to self-nominate, it's gonna get complicated to try and get them to nominate in a quadrant. I would suggest
Yeah.
that
This is what-
if we're getting self-nominations, we take what we get.
Pretty
Well-
cool, but maybe where we look is the quadrant, to make sure that we have representation from different areas, and we don't just focus on where we live. I think it's more to move us than to motivate.
Well, and
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong, but if I'm out in the public, I could nominate your house, couldn't I? I don't have to nominate myself, do I?
For sure.
Right? I could nominate somebody else
Mhm.
as just a neighbor, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
I would think so.
right?
I don't see why not.
Okay.
We may need to consider adjusting the rubric if we are not just looking at yards, because it doesn't really address entryway.
Yes, that is also a valid point.
Mm-hmm.
Because right now, your focus is on the neatness and the foliage and does it
Complimentary.
complement each other and the color schemes? And if you're looking at entryways, then it's not applicable at all.
So then, that's gonna open a whole new can of worms, because if we have a different focus every quarter, then the rubric's gonna have to change, and that's irrelevant.
Or it's an opportunity to simplify.
That could be.
I don't know that we need to get into the rubric right now, though. I think that right now we can discuss, and if this is the direction we want to move in, vote on just this direction with some parameters in place. For example, Commissioner Gertz brought up a very good point. Perhaps we're looking in a quadrant, but anybody from Litchfield Park can nominate anyone.
And then I also think we need to, and we've talked about this before, limit the number of nominations that we actually vote on. I don't think we should have like 10. I just think that's way too many. 7 is even a lot. But, so I think there needs to be some line drawn, and there again, who are you gonna cut out, if we get bombarded with,
Yeah, I mean,
how do you
that's
elim-
a real question for you
Yeah.
guys, because if you're accepting these resident nominations and you get 10 of them, how do you even say no without going to take a look at them?
yeah.
As an idea, maybe we just, the rubric, like we vote first, second, and third place. And it's not as much of a chore to
Right, or,
grade each one of
or
them.
Grade them 1 through 10.
yeah, or if there's 5, then you
Yeah.
give your favorite one 5.
Yeah.
Fourth, you
Exactly. Yeah,
You're jumping, I think. And then you're voting for a handful.
yeah,
You may still look at all of them.
yeah.
Could you, in theory, do the first 7 nominations are the ones that will be considered for entranceway of the, that way in the case, are you okay?
Yeah, sorry, dry patch.
Oh, darn it.
Yeah, okay.
So could you, in theory, do the first 7 nominations that come in are the ones that will be reviewed for, that will be, reviewed is a bad choice of words, but
I mean, that's completely your call, if you want to accept the first
Or we
7.
could take a random 7 of the
Random
population that we
sampling?
get. I mean, if we get 10, then we randomly take 7 of the 10. I mean, or we could take the first. I think it's just another option.
no matter what, we'd have to outline a time frame, right? We'd have to say the nominations would have to be in
Due by
by,
a certain day.
Mm-hmm.
which would be a natural cutoff point. And then we could take a look at, I mean, if we have a meeting in September, that could be the time when we're reviewing some more of that, because I feel like we don't have enough data now to say what we would do if we received 100 nominations. What if we only got 3?
We've never had one yet.
So
I
3
think
would
we
be
may be
darn.
unnecessarily worrying here.
Yeah, I have a feeling
Agreed.
it will be us scoring in our quadrant, and, yeah.
I've been talking to some neighbors too, and they're kind of into it. Like, they like the shift, and they were like, well, what does that look like? And I explained to them what the social media part of it could be, And they were like, oh, that's, they were intrigued. So hopefully that means that there will be some more
Yeah.
public involvement, which I think is the goal of this.
Right.
If we did the greens, right, so we just did,
Mhm.
that was, according to what I have, that's number 3.
Oh, boy.
So we're going 4. So we're going, 4 is the,
The
village.
north side, right?
4 is the village.
Well, we're on calendar year, actually, so we did 4, 3, so now we're on 2.
2, which
Yeah.
is perfect.
Yeah.
That's the area down by the lake.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Exactly what you were talking about.
So if we each nominate 1 from 2,
Mm-hmm.
and then open it up for community nominations, and if we have the problem of too many, then let's address that at the,
September meeting, when we have more data to make a decision about it. Regardless, we can establish a date now. We could say, because we would need to know before that September meeting. So we could say before September 1st, possibly. I don't mean to put it out there as,
Mm-hmm.
any other thoughts?
Do we define what entryway means? It seems kind of obvious, but just so we're on the same, it's kind of the general area around the front door?
To me, it's the main entrance to the house, so the front door, but we might need to,
Just so we understand what we're looking at.
Yeah. like, not the garage door.
Right.
Is that,
Immediate area around the front door, is that a good
Yeah.
estimation?
If we're gonna be putting the sign out front, we should probably not limit it to just the entryway, but maybe have the focus on the entryway. So it's not like a really nice entryway and then they got weeds all over the place, right, on the sides of the yard.
I wonder if it would help to perhaps ask Chuck to get like a sampling. So like, and this is just what I'm picturing, I'd love to get everybody's feedback, but like if Chuck had his the camera, like a 7-second video walking up to a pretty awesome entranceway. And then, hey, do you have neighbors with an awesome entranceway like that, or whatever the case? Because seeing the example might really outline and define that better than we could do.
Mhm. Yeah. So just include 2 or 3 examples on the social media post.
Or even just one example and just explain, hey, the entranceway could start at the street, it could start on the walkway towards the front door, it could start. I think seeing it is the example in that case, I think. Can I get something for you? Do you
I'm
need?
good.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm good.
I think we need a motion now to, if we're going to do entryways, I think we need a motion.
So I think that if we're moving forward with it, we would first vote on, well, the motion would be to switch the focus, correct? From a yard of the quarter to entranceways for the next quarter.
For the 3rd quarter, yeah.
And that would then be, so then would we need to have a follow-up motion on the means in which nominations came in? Or is that something we could just say, as a part of that motion, we will accept nominations from the public to the city through, is it email, do you know what I mean?
Well, I think you guys already did that
Yeah,
at the
that's already
last
been
meeting.
So-
Yeah, so you're good that way. You already agreed to open it up to the
Does it?
residents to self-nominate and nominate.
And we already agreed to have different things be the focus, right?
Right.
Mhm.
So I
So
think
I
this
think
is
we
it.
just need
So
the
it's just
motion
that-
to switch, to make the focus for the 3rd quarter be entryways.
Is that, I think so, I think that's
you're
fine
sufficient
too.
that way. And then obviously, I think Commissioner Faith is probably right to have you keep in mind just
Yeah.
what's
How you get
around
there.
it as well, to make sure that the yard itself is also.
Like, I think of it too, like, so, the one neighbor I was talking to has like a fountain that's like probably 8 feet off of the front door, but also 3 feet back. Like, I consider that, and it's like a front patio. And I don't know if patio is a word that's used as much like here as it would be on the East Coast, but it makes me think like that whole thing would be the entranceway, right?
Can I suggest that maybe we pick the next couple quarters so that you have the plan set up for the year? What did you have in mind for the next quarter after this quarter?
Well, the quarter after this one, we get really close to Christmas and we can't do anything with Christmas.
Holiday lights.
No.
I sort of think we
We've got
let,
that
I think we
Yeah.
almost pause if that, because the city does Christmas.
they have a really successful
Yeah, Christmas
best
lights.
Christmas lights
We need to
program.
do a quarterly one, though. That's part of what we're supposed to do.
So if it's September, October, but see, it would be December, so I don't know what we do.
Jardigan. Fire pit.
Yeah, but who has fire pits in
Could you
front?
do?
I like that idea, but
Take some
then,
pictures.
Could you do a Halloween decoration?
that's why I like the self-submission or your neighbor submission. I was in your backyard and you have a really cool fire
Cut it
pit.
close.
In my backyard. We'd have to go back to back with it, then.
Yeah.
And it won't be up by the time we award it.
Perhaps we,
But if we can kind of plan ahead, I feel like, frankly, the worst part of Yard of the Quarter is the debate we have every meeting about it.
Yeah.
It's,
I
it's become a
had
dead
4
horse.
written down, Adam, and I think I still have them at home. And they kind of were seasonal, you know, with the quarters, if I remember right. But they also involve backyards, so.
And we just go back to Yard of the Quarter for the 4th quarter. And then what do we do when we come back in spring? It'd just be nice to kind of have a plan laid out so that we don't
Yeah.
have to rehash this every meeting.
Right.
so, what does the spring look like then if it does in fact go back to Yard of the Quarter for December?
What other public access themes could we do? Obviously, backyards are. So the you could do flowers. You could say, you know, really we're looking for flowers. That's our, you know, thing, or your
Spring has sprung kind of thing.
The exact wordage in the, city code is recommend quarterly for formal recognition by the council, those homeowners who have maintained or enhanced their property by making significant landscape or architectural improvements. There's one focused on improvements, like,
architectural improvement.
Yeah.
That could be your
and I don't know that we would,
fourth
I
quarter.
mean, maybe we could get a list from the permits or something who need improvements.
Like spring ideas, guys, flowers, that's, you know.
Keep it simple. The more simple we keep it, I feel like
And
the
then
more.
we just did yard for fourth, because we can't do holidays like that, obviously. And kind of we're too late for Halloween. And summer is, we talked about water feature, I think, was one of your things.
Well, this
I
would
don't know
be,
that I see a few fountains around.
Yeah, there's not.
There's not a
Yeah.
lot.
Would be
A lot of
I mean,
dry.
small pools.
That's when I was thinking that people would submit their friends or neighbors and you could do something from the backyard, but that's not gonna work, so. Yeah, I don't think there's enough water out in front.
so the,
Front porch could be a theme. That might be a good fall, like fourth quarter one.
You know, the spring one would be, you know, xeriscape front yard, you know, there's, you guys can do themes with plant life. You know, you have xeriscape or you have extreme foliage, you know, you might have, you know, who's got the best pruned trees. I mean, the springtimes, there's a ton of options for something like that. Because at that time of the year, everything's blooming, sprouting.
Landscaping should also be in place in the fourth quarter, right? We wouldn't notice a difference necessarily with
True.
cacti and stuff like that.
True.
So that could be, fourth quarter could be xeriscaping, you know, who does the best xeriscaping?
What was this one?
that's what we did this time around.
Oh,
This
was
was
it?
Xeriscape.
Mhm.
But doesn't mean we can't. I don't know that these have to be set in stone forever
No, but it would just be
Right.
nice to kind of have a plan out a little ways, so
Mhm.
again, we don't have to do this.
through fiscal year '24 sort of thing.
Mhm.
What is the purpose of limiting it to focus or, I guess? Like, what's
I
our-
was
what's
trying to
our
get
goal with
away
it?
from us being so judgy and using our own personal, biases
I
to
see.
say that somebody's is better than somebody else's.
We're still
Yeah.
doing that just with the themes.
Yeah.
I think one of the things you're trying to accomplish was that we tend not to look at the condos, because it's not what you think of yard of the quarter. There's generally not a yard, so maybe
Yeah.
that's something that we just, an area that we need to continue to focus on every once in a while.
Mhm. To include all of them.
It's okay if you forfeit that eligibility for the other benefits.
Not having a yard, yeah.
So,
Do we want to go themes then, or do we want to just stay yard? Because we're still judging everybody.
in a sense, but I think trying to get the community to kind of pitch in on this more is one of the reasons we're switching to a focus. So we're taking it away from a more general to like a little bit of a more specific.
Hey, guys, look for this.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why I think that the social media will really kind of, yeah. Yeah. So if we were just looking at fiscal year '24, which just started, so this is quarter one, we just did Xeriscape.
Three, we talked about flowers.
No, 3 is entryways, we just did 2.
Oh,
I thought this was one.
No,
We
this
just
is
did 2, quarter
it's not
2.
based on.
Oh, pardon me, so it's not, okay.
Yeah, so 3 is up for grabs, but we're suggesting entryways for 3. And then 4 would be back to,
Just a straight
just
YOQ.
straight- Yep, yep.
Where's overseeding time, right? When we get into
You would have overseeded already, I think,
October
right?
timeframe.
Yeah, maybe that would be a nice one. Let's go opposite. Let's go green, lush.
October, November,
Yeah.
that timeframe.
No, no.
Totally not PC.
Best grass.
lush. Yeah, best grass. Throw it down.
I like it.
Green with the green.
A lot of people that take a lot of pride in their grass.
Yeah,
All right.
best, does it have to be natural grass?
Yep.
Okay. Am I gonna spell it out?
The condo folks have awesome overseeded grass, but, yeah.
Okay, so then we're on
The spring,
to spring when
flowers.
flowers.
And could you just say
What
spring?
about blooming? What about
Blooming
blooming?
flower. Yeah, 'cause you have trees that are flowering.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, blooming.
Doesn't have to be, it could be cactus, it could be
Could be anything, right?
anything. Yeah, just
Blooming
blooming,
spring.
Mhm.
yeah.
We're doing entryway next,
Mm-hmm.
then
Yard
grass,
of the quarter,
then blooms.
no, entryway, yard of the quarter, grass, bloom.
Not suggesting we don't do yard of the quarter. We just, because the next one after that is
Oh,
gonna be when
grass.
overseeding is done and everything's super green.
Okay,
Winter situation,
Best green, man.
yeah.
okay,
So entry, best grass, flowering, and then.
Bloom.
blooming,
Flowering, blooming, and
Then we
then
come
we're
back
back.
to xeriscape if we want to be.
Yeah,
Might as well.
One of the nice things would be is if we don't limit our residents to nominating by our quadrants, because otherwise, you know,
yeah,
quadrant 3 only gets xeriscaping.
I agree.
yeah.
But we can, if we need to augment, we do try to rotate the love
Yeah,
through our nominations.
yeah,
Yep.
sounds good.
This is a great discussion.
Motion, Christoph.
Shake
Better
your
written
hand.
down.
Are we there?
Put it all down.
Are we there? I feel like we're there.
All right,
Commissioner Gertz.
I'd like to make a motion to determine the focus of our Yard of the Quarter awards by entry for first quarter, best grass for second quarter, blooming for third quarter, and xeriscaping for fourth quarter.
You got your quarters wrong, but they're in the right order.
In that order,
Okay,
yeah. The next 4 quarters. One,
Okay.
yeah.
I'll second.
I have a question. Does that replace the quadrants?
Not for residents.
Not for them, but for where we pick things from, so that we move around.
right,
Okay.
So our nominations hold to the quadrants?
yeah, or,
Okay.
I'm torn on that, but.
Yeah, it's tough because, like you were saying, the xeriscape is
So,
gonna
when
fall
you
in
get back
line
to
or
xeriscape, you're gonna
whatever.
be back over there in the gated community, and everybody's gonna be on Green Tree Road again
Yeah.
for xeriscaping.
yeah.
We could shuffle the quadrants at some point, I mean.
Randomly change them up, yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
think the quadrants got us into areas that we hadn't
Maybe
been
we,
going to, so we
Maybe
could
each year we change the order of
make
the
an
quadrants, so
effort.
that different quadrants are getting nominated for different themes.
or we just say that at least one, if you're gonna nominate as a commissioner, at least one of your nominations comes from that determined quadrant, and the rest do whatever you want. That way you're just
Yeah.
getting around.
I like it.
That accomplishes.
Does that need to be
purposes, I
part
think.
of the motion? I don't believe so.
I don't think, yeah.
I think it's
He
overcomplicated.
was like, I don't wanna write that.
Yeah, I wanna write it.
But did we answer your question, Commissioner Fee?
Yes, yes, and I asked it because I thought maybe we did need to change it because we had previously set up like the quadrant structure. We're all on the same page.
I'm satisfied.
Can restate things if you like.
No thanks.
You got it.
We have one homework assignment, though. We have to talk this up with our neighbors and friends so that we can try to hopefully get some community input.
It's a great discussion to have. I think, well, and not to say that they would have a more interested view on this, but I think real estate agents, so a couple of people that I was talking to, like, one of the things that they do is they focus on certain little things like that. And it's not that I wouldn't notice, I guess I noticed, but in their minds, it's part of how they're selling that property, you know? What does it look like from the curb? What does it look like as you're approaching the front door? Okay,
Okay.
we've arrived at the magic moment for this transition, guys. All in favor of the motion that Commissioner Gertz puts forward to adopt the order that he said a minute ago, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? So moved. Creation of a new city park. Presenter Brian Faith, RPG Commissioner.
We talked about this briefly a few meetings ago. And I just wanted to bring it up again to, I don't know, give everyone a chance this time. And, you know, I don't have any great ideas for it. You know, my thinking is that we kind of just do the minimum to make it quote-unquote park. We need a name so we could put it on the website, and a trash can, maybe a doggy waste thing, and a bench. Bigger plans can come from there. Maybe boundaries if we need to limit the area. But yeah, please.
Can you review what areas we're talking about? Are we talking about just the red or the red and the blue? What are we talking about here?
Or why is there
All of it
three on the map? Is there three just so we're separating
So I
them?
pulled this up the county assessor, and that's just,
Is
That's
the red
mostly how
land,
it is.
it says deeded by HOA, so does it belong to the city?
Yes.
So
Yeah,
is
and
it
the
gonna be that
blue-
kind of stretch from 1, 2, 3 kind of thing,
yes.
optimally?
Yep. Yeah, the blue is a different parcel that is kind of a park already. I think on the Wigwam side, there's a bench over there.
That's everybody's
like a path
wedding
that kind of
photo,
goes
wedding
through.
photo park is what
Yeah,
that is.
okay. Yeah, but the other areas aren't, I don't think anybody knows that it's public land, and there's some decent spots in there where you could.
I have a question for Kyle. So is there any advantage or disadvantage or work or more work if something is designated a park to the city?
Or liability.
Or any, you know what I mean? Like, what comes with that we need, that we don't know about?
Depends. So if we're talking about just labeling it as a sit-down park, obviously, I don't think there's gonna be that much of a liability. Are we talking about putting in some kind of play structure, workout equipment? I mean, whatever there's different thought, yeah, it all depends on what you guys decide that you wanna present to council and say, hey, this is what we're looking at. You know, there's a potentially that we can make it, like Commissioner Bates said, like a sit-down park, you know,
Yeah.
a meditation circle, or, I mean, there's a lot of possibilities of just doing something simple as that and just kind of condemning it, hey, this is, you know, meditation park, or kind of like, you know, Kiwanis is, you know, it's just a path through, a couple benches, and there's desert landscape around.
And the little corner thing that, you know, on Fairway and,
Sagebrush-
Villanueva.
Yeah, Sagebrush Point.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
that was perfect,
Mhm.
you know, and
Definitely.
I'm in favor of it. But I just wondered from the city and Kyle's perspective, like, what that meant from
I
them.
looked up our code, what the definition of a park was, and just read it. Summary. Public park means any area in the city owned, used, established, maintained, or administered by the city and devoted to active or passive recreation. So I would
So in
say
theory,
it's
this
probably
is already a park, right?
park.
Yeah.
Just needs a name
Just
and
not
a
labeled.
membership.
It's not
Telling
designated.
people
Just
that
a-
they can,
yeah.
that it's a
Does,
park.
does designating it a park add, I mean, it adds about 2 acres, we did that whole strip there, it adds about 2 acres. Does that, like, is that something we boast anywhere, you know? Litchfield Park, you know, home of 100 acres of parks or stuff like that, does that add to that
Sure, that's
prestige?
one more
Should be
part.
on the website.
But do we brag about our acreage of parks anywhere, or number of parks anywhere?
It's on the website.
I do on the state of the city, I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
I
mean-
think that's like some of the nicest grass in the area.
Cool.
Yes.
Ballpark, what is the
Really
bench
is
and
there.
a wastebasket and a doggy station run us?
but I bet we could do something else. I like the low-key, just chill, go sit and read a book, or, you know,
Maybe,
so maybe there is some cool round seating, I don't know, you know, that fits into some of those swills that they have in there that, you know, I don't know, but I like, yeah.
I think there's a lot of opportunity there.
Mhm. I like
What
it.
is that ballpark cost-wise,
For trash receptacle and doggy waste,
and a bench?
just
Just, I mean, not that we would do a bench,
Yeah.
but just,
Yeah,
it's gonna cost us something, whatever we
Yeah.
go.
7,000 to 8,000.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
Not much at all.
One hole.
No, it's very minimal. I mean, the most expensive part would probably be the bench.
Yeah.
They're not cheap. But I do suggest that this is something we'd probably want to run by the city manager first as well.
So, it sounds like we're generally in favor of it. Would our next step be to ask you guys to go back to the city manager and start to explore some ideas on perhaps a meditation area, or even something as simple as just some benches, wastebasket, doggy bag thing?
Would it fall under Roman numeral 8? Topics for referral, oh, no, not the city council, though, sorry.
Probably not ready
Yeah,
for that
I would think that'd be down the road,
Yeah, that'd be-
Yeah, it'd be nice to know if Matt would support this financially.
Yeah.
And if not, then, I mean, we can put up a $200 sign that says, you know, whatever park. We still call it a park, we don't usually have to have stuff.
And my only concern is, safety, more or less, like with that turn-in from Dysart Road. And
You call it a park,
Maybe you need
kids are running around there, right?
yeah,
Kids are already running around there.
okay.
Yeah, I don't think it, I understand what you're saying, but I also don't think it really changes the
Yeah.
use, because
Yeah.
I I wouldn't be in favor of adding a playground, for example, or something, so.
Not a space.
So yeah, I don't think it'll change the use drastically if we.
Okay.
And I know it's it might be a future thing, but what would be the process for naming it, do you know that? Is
Brian,
Ideas in a hat,
Yeah.
shake it.
I wonder if it already has a name. Does anybody know?
No, I don't think it does.
No?
When you tell somebody to go mow it, what do you tell them to go mow?
Long Park.
Little Hills and Big Hills.
That's what you
That's
call it,
what-
Little
That's
Hills
what
and
the
Big
staff calls it, yeah. Little Hills and Big Hills.
It does have a lot of hills, which are.
It does.
Uh-huh.
It does.
There you go, Hill Park.
And most of the parks in the city were named long before they had an official name.
Sure.
yeah.
So do we have input on a name possibly, or what, do we know what that would even?
Yeah,
I mean, that's a judgment.
I would say,
Yeah,
Questions.
We
Yeah.
did on that little park on the corner.
yeah.
We got to pick that one.
Has anybody served the city as long as Sunny?
I don't know.
If you're thinking about
No, we don't do names.
naming,
We don't do that?
by that, the city doesn't.
No, they
Yeah.
don't do that.
It gets too complicated. The
There had to
more
be a
years.
Mr. Aleppo once upon a time, I imagine. That didn't come out of nowhere.
The Aleppo Pines.
Those
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
But there could have been a Mr. Aleppo, I don't,
He named the pine trees.
Do we need a
Right, they need
motion to have it go to, Matthew?
I don't think so, I think we
No,
could
it
is
just
just direct-
ask, right?
Direct staff.
And
to-
then it can come back
Yeah.
next month?
Maybe we can come back to you guys with a couple of ideas for a meditative, reflective, very minimal kind
Yeah.
of thing, see what those costs might be. And then this will give a better idea of how do you approach going about the process to get it to council to say, yeah, we agree with your recommendation to officially make this a city park.
And we could start with the trash can and doggy bag dispenser and a bench, and then move, add another aspect later.
We could find ideas too from other
If
parks.
it
Yeah.
goes too big, it's gonna,
Yeah,
it's gonna take forever to get it done.
right.
I don't
You
know
can
if you
always-
guys,
Probably just,
I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Estrella Banner Hospital, but their inner courtyard is a beautiful, Zen garden. So if you guys, I know it's not the best place to go and check
No,
stuff out, but
it's a good idea to go check
you
and
can
see
get great
if,
ideas from there as well.
Yeah.
It's really neat.
right on.
Okay. Right.
is that kind of I don't spend a lot of time on that side of the city.
Oh, I
Is
wouldn't.
that kind of the use of the park currently?
No, a lot of dog
Just dog
walking.
Yeah, just dog
Yeah.
walking.
Yep,
Meditatively, the road,
It's right by
I don't know.
Dysart.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's not super
Noisy.
quiet.
But when you're there,
It's for us.
the way the hedges are, they for whatever reason, visually, they block out the busier road. And
There's homeless beds behind those oleanders too.
I've noticed that as well, I'm not
We've
sure.
removed them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had to have our house renovated and we had to, our insurance company put us up in a condo right there across from it. It was great, I mean, just go out and throw a football over there or frisbee, it's, nice long park for that stuff, but limited use.
So, looking forward to hearing what the discussion with city management, or city manager, did you say, Matthew, comes back with.
I like it.
Commissioners report on current events. Commissioner Gertz.
Warm. Palm trees are seeding like crazy. I'm so glad that we're cutting them now. That was my only thing. It's like they're dropping like mad, and I don't know if that's because it's just better this year, but it seems like it's earlier, but it's good to hear that we're cutting them. Otherwise, everything looks great. It's just, it's really hot.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Faith?
I don't know, I don't have anything to report, but good meeting.
Commissioner Schwartz?
I've been here for a month.
Yeah. Been a few months.
Commissioner Colbert?
My youngest daughter just, she's finishing up the swim team. It's been a good experience, so all the coaches did a great job this year, and the meets ran smoothly, so kudos to the staff at the pool.
Right on.
I just had my first experience at the wading pool at the Rack and hadn't been there in probably, how old are my kids? 40 years? Much improved, thank you. It's fun. Nothing else. It's summer, no one's here.
I've been driving past the construction in the new park a lot. I see that there's now a lot of trees up in there, and the roadway looks like it's just about done too. And where the circle is, it looks like there's all kinds of landscaping and like rock barrier walls there. Compliments to the crew. It looks great. It's really piquing a lot of interest. Like, what's it gonna look like in there? Everybody's starting to ask the question, you know? So that's great. I know the time's gonna fly by, you know, and very soon we'll all be like, can you remember when the park wasn't even there? And nobody will be able to say it, right? But thank you so much for all the work there. Looks wonderful.
Have you guys got a chance to see the RGB lighting on the website?
No,
Check it out, it's pretty neat.
Oh,
RGB lighting.
Yeah.
What's RGB stand for?
You're gonna put me on the spot, hold on.
Red, green, blue.
Yeah.
Be red, yeah. Red, blue, green, but yeah.
No, there's
Bruce
another
Bader
name for it,
Ginsburg?
I'll think of it in a second. But we did the, color changing so we can keep up with the seasons, so, you know, springtime, we'll change them, Christmas will be the green and then red. You know, Fourth of July will be red, white, and blue, and they'll change colors, you know, through the night. They're gonna continue those through the center of town as well.
Is it on the
Where is it right
trees,
now?
or?
It ends, right at Old Litchfield, and the new village, the new
Between
village.
Litchfield and Old Litchfield?
Yep,
And
That's
what
so
is it?
cool.
Is it on the trees, or what is it?
it's on the palm trees, so they're up shining RGB lights on the palm trees.
Is
It's,
it
So they're on
something
now?
About 15 feet high and shoots up from there, or is it?
no, it's their ground, and they're shooting up.
So
We have a video on the city website.
Oh, okay.
okay,
Yeah, it's pretty
well,
neat.
look.
Yeah,
Is
check
it
it out.
on the Litchfield Square page? Is that what it's on?
Yeah, Matthew put it on the, I think it is the Litchfield Square page.
So if you go on the website, there's a page devoted just to Litchfield Square, and I think it's on that page.
I think it's a nice little feature that we were able to add.
Right on. I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Should maybe put it on social media, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The man Chuck. Okay, well, if there aren't any other things to report from the commissioners, we're just waiting for one more motion.
Move that we adjourn?
Second?
Are there any questions? All in favor of adjournment, say aye. Aye. All opposed? And we are adjourned.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Hey, Kyle, super quick question.